we are visiting Disney World during Christmas time. I know it will be busy, but what are some things we need to know before our trip about visiting during this time?
Why don't you go first, Jackie? Because I'm sure you've got some ideas.
Yeah, so I actually just did Thanksgiving week. That was the last trip that my family took. And I will say that our trip, we purposefully did not plan a ton of park days because we knew that it was going to be really busy. So we knew that we wanted to experience some of the things outside of the park because the parks were going to be so busy and so crowded. So we did some of the extra stuff, right? Like we went to the resorts and looked at all of the decorations. We did the Christmas tree stroll at Disney Springs. So there's a ton to do outside of the parks. So I think keeping that in mind and maybe being flexible with your park days, getting some park hoppers would be helpful. Just because if a park gets to be too much, then you can tap out and not feel bad because you know that you can either go to a different park or just take a break and maybe circle back later in the day. So having that flexibility is really important. And I think also just knowing that you have to go into it knowing that you're not going to get everything done. You just have to. So getting your priority list figured out, but also making sure that you're not trying to take on too much during that time of year is really important. So like when we went, we did some of the parties as well when we went, which are so much fun and definitely worth it if it's within your budget. But it was one of those conversations that I had with my kids, like, okay, we're going to the Christmas party at Magic Kingdom. Our ride list is going to have to be shorter because we have this party and it's going to be busy.
What one ride do you want to do?
Yeah. And that's what it was. All four of us picked one ride and then we were like, oh, okay, now we ended up being able to swing it because you can get in a little early and, those types of things with the parties, but that we got through those four and it was like, okay, let's add two more. Now let's figure out what those two are and kind of go incrementally. Definitely did not want to promise the world and not be able to deliver to my kids when it came to that. So that I think is hugely important.
Right. I have a note too from Vinny over here in my chat that says, be aware of early Magic Kingdom closures as well for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. So yes, be very aware of that schedule. Mm-hmm. Those can be some of the best days if you have park hoppers to go to Magic Kingdom because they can be really lower crowds those days.
Yes. So. And I will say that is not the trend that we've seen with the Jollywood party. So don't assume that applies to both. That we have seen that a lot with Magic Kingdom, but with Hollywood Studios, there really isn't a huge difference on the nights that they have the Jollywood party, that the days really see any less of a crowd, partially because they still run a Fantasmic for day guests, even when Jollywood happens, whereas like at Magic Kingdom, they don't do the standard fireworks show. So I think that's a huge difference that you need to take note of when it comes to those days. But yeah, I definitely think making sure you're looking at the schedule and also just checking the hours frequently because the hours will fluctuate, especially if you're there like Christmas week. The hours will fluctuate. They'll open earlier, they'll open later, those types, or stay open later into the evening. So those types of things you need to look at as well.
Yeah. And I think I would definitely look into some things that are maybe special offerings, things that they don't have the rest of the time, besides, the things that Jackie already mentioned, but any special treats they have. They don't have as many in Disney World as they do in Disneyland, to be honest. But that's something that I always like to do is kind of like, this is a special time of year. What things can I do that are unique to this time? They even had like the photo frames up for the Very Merry Christmas Party. They left those up during the day where you could get photos there and whatnot. And I think, I agree with Jackie, just adjusting your expectations for this, what you're going to be able to do and go into it knowing that whatever you get to do is a bonus because it's just not the same when it's really, really busy. If you go into it thinking, I'm going to get all these rides done and do all these things, and then you're upset at the end of the day. So if you go into it just thinking like, okay, well, I'm just going to go enjoy my day. And if it gets really crowded, we're going to go for a break and swim in the pool, or we're going to, go get a treat or go see a show or do something that doesn't require fighting the crowds or standing in line for a really long time.
Right. And I would also encourage you to, it sounds silly, but plan some time to just exist on Main Street at Christmas time. because it's just, there's just something so magical about the giant Christmas tree and the the toy soldiers and all of the wreaths and the decor, and just there's something to be said about that time of year, being very purposeful with taking some time to look around at your surroundings. And that can be in all the parks, obviously, but Main Street is going to be your kind of the center point of a lot of the decorating when it comes to that. But same thing with the resorts, and there's trees at every park and there's trees at every resort. So, getting to experience some of that, I would definitely carve out some time to make sure you do that.